Hello, guys and gals, and this is well, I knew a second ago. 32. Okay, this is Vlog Friday, episode 32. Actually, it seems like I always have to check and make sure. I typically record these not necessarily a week in advance, but for the Vlog Friday, it's usually 5 days in advance or something like that. It There was a time when I was recording the vlog the day of, but that got to be kind of hectic because I would forget, and then I'd be walking, and then I would have to run home and then record it, and then hope that I like everything recorded fine. So it just turned out easier to just do these well in advance. I basically all of my recording on Sundays these days, and we're talking making. See, this week it was at least 7, 8, 9, at least 10 or 12 videos. And so by then my voice is like totally wrecked from all the reading that I do. But I really enjoy doing it. Always with these vlogs, I try and start with a topic that we don't usually talk about or that isn't addressed by these points here. This one is reliance. And why reliance? Well, it really isn't talked about much. It's really good to be self-reliant, having a job and supporting oneself. But what really isn't talked about much is basically being reliant on other people. Sometimes that's necessary, especially if you're injured or there really is no other way to actually subsist or survive. Um, Reliance can be a good thing to a certain extent, and it isn't always a negative situation. Um, but it is good to be able to support oneself too. Um, Given economic instability and, well, with the Rona, that cost a lot of people their jobs because restaurants closed down and all that stuff. And everything is opening back up now, but it can still be frustrating, especially if you want to work but you can't and no one will hire you. You might find yourself being reliant on another person, especially if your funds are less than, well, reliable. Let's just be honest. Currently, the economic reports are kind of on the upswing. If anything, it's difficult for businesses to find people to hire because I think that the unemployment benefits were so good that people didn't really need to rely on them or something. Or that is just the consensus that has been on the radio recently. But as far as I know, there's no shame in just basically in either on either side of the coin. There's really nothing wrong with it. Um, um, Supporting another person can lead to a feeling of achievement, and which is good for both parties. Um, and then the opposite is true too. Of basically being self sufficient is also an ego boost because you're basically making progress and basically succeeding in what you do. Um, but it can also lead to depression if you can't find a job and you really want one, or things go south and you lose your job and you don't have the money for the bills. Um, I'm not sure exactly what the answer is to that, really, but one of the answers to the symptoms of depression is and let's just face it, depression is pretty common these days, with civil unrest and pandemics and all that all that stuff. The stuff that nobody really likes to talk about. It can all lead to depression if it isn't really handled properly. And one way to handle that is to do something you enjoy at least once a day. Make sure it's something legal. I always have to say that because um, we're a family-friendly channel here. We always keep everything above board, um, trying to keep people on the straight and narrow, of course. But you also need to also use common sense when you're coming up with something like this, because you want to make sure that what it is, that whatever you choose to do is within your dietary wheelhouse. You don't want diabetics to chow down on sugar because it will basically cause them to go into a coma. Um, I've told my story before of how I found my mom, it being Mother's Day today when I'm recording this, collapsed on the kitchen floor and her blood sugar was up over 1,000, about 1,200. But anyways, so you don't really want to, you really want to keep tabs on your dietary. Make sure everything that you eat is within your dietary wheelhouse, and you're not doing yourself harm, more harm than good. Um, so yeah, that is one way to actually handle your depression. Just the symptoms, though, it won't probably help the underlying cause. There is always someone who cares, and that is part. That is the second point. It can be really difficult to believe that sometimes. Society is basically geared towards isolation, I believe. Um, there are social platforms, and you can have millions of followers, but you can still feel like you're alone. Even in a crowded room, you can still feel alone. Um, it's and it can always seem like everything is so impersonal. I mean, everything is machines these days, with ATMs and um, TVs and computers and everything. It might be called a personal computer, but sometimes it is an impersonal computer too, because everything is just isolated and it's just one person, doing a bunch of stuff and interacting with videos and stuff. So it can really seem like nobody cares, and that just simply isn't true. It's basically a lie, because there's always someone who cares, and you should always know that. Number three is, if you are suffering from an affliction, there is no shame in seeking help. And there used to be a stigma attached to mental illness. It used to be common on TV to call people crazy, and make fun of people who are, mentally unsound. And thankfully, that has kind of died out and fallen by the wayside. There's really no shame in mental illness, because if you go by the DSM-4 or DSM-5, everyone, at least every living person, has at least one mental illness. So um, I know that back when I was taking psychology, this would have been back in the early 2000s. No, actually, I graduated in 95. So between 95 and 98 was when I took my psychology course. Back then, it was common knowledge that every person on the planet had at least one mental condition designated as a mental condition by the DSM, Diagnostic and Statistical Manual for what the psychologists use to diagnose people. Every person on the planet had at least one mental illness that could get them put into an insane asylum. That was just common knowledge to psychologists. So really, it's really good that it's more acceptable to come out with these mental illnesses. Um, and by mental illnesses, I mean like depression, paranoid schizophrenia, borderline, manic depression, now called bipolar. And so those are basically what I consider mental illnesses. Um, anyways, and some of those, like the bipolar and the paranoid schizophrenia, basically require medication just to cope, and it can be difficult to cope otherwise with other illnesses too. Anyways, and now with depression, you can basically treat it with diet, I believe, and meditation and stuff like that. And I admire people that do that, but it's just there are a lot of people that can't cope without the medication. So that's why it's there, and as long as it's legal and over the counter, then there's no real harm in taking that. Though I do admire people who can basically handle their depression without it. Number 4 is no matter how bad things are, oh, no matter how bad things get. Okay, I can't even read my handwriting. There is always hope. Now you know how my teachers felt when I was in high school and college and stuff, because my penmanship was terrible. Because of how I hold my pen. I hold my pen like this, so I push down really hard. It's really easy for me to break pencils this way. I would always break my pencil because I was putting so much pressure like that, and it would always cut into my hand. My pens would always cut into my fingers because I'd be pushing so hard. You're supposed to hold the pen light like this, I know, but the way I was holding it was I'd actually literally be putting so much pressure on pens I'd almost break them. Anyways, no matter how bad things get, there is always hope. Now, finding hope can be difficult, especially if your situation is especially dire or seemingly impossible. But there's always hope, no matter how bad things get. It might not seem like it at the time, but every situation always comes to a conclusion, and usually, and always, rather, always hope prevails. Again, it could depend on worldview, but always try to find the hope in all situations. Number 5 is, excuse me, it would help if I didn't, if my saliva would go down, my esophagus and not down my windpipe. Wait a minute. I don't know. Esophagus and whatever. Okay, I don't remember. Anyways, I was trying to remember my biology, but I don't remember. Anyways, 5 is societal labels and tags are pointless. People are people, and that is sometimes easy to forget. I mean, it's less common these days, I believe, to judge someone by the color of their skin, thankfully, because, we don't want any part of that. People are people regardless of the color of their skin, their religious beliefs, their sexual orientation, their, what some people would call creed, their associations. People are basically people deep down, regardless of basically anything, any societal tag that gets thrown at them. And I've always found societal tags to basically subjugate people and just be a way of just putting people into boxes that they don't belong in. And so yeah, it's just not really fair to people to maybe place unfair tags on them or call them names that don't really apply. Even if they do apply, then it can still be offensive. There are of course exceptions. I know that, well, in the furry community at least, then there are people who are basically proud to be called fur fags, and that's perfectly fine if that's your thing. But yeah, so some people do embrace the societal tags, but still, I still find them to be very subjective and basically, not really the best. Anyways, number 6 is be yourself. There will never be another you, and this is really one of the most important parts, is that you always have something to contribute no matter what. Everyone has unique perspectives. Everyone has a unique background. Everyone has unique experiences. And so everyone basically has a story to tell. And so yeah, now the magazines might want you to look a certain way, but you should always be yourself. And it's difficult to really put into words how important individuality is. But yeah, always be yourself. I don't know, if you are a YouTuber or a streamer or a gamer or anything like that, then you should always bring your own little touches, special touches to whatever you do. Even if you're with tech support, human resources, stuff like that. You always have something unique to contribute. The biggest streamers on YouTube, the biggest, the most popular people are themselves, and people like them for who they are, and that's why they're popular, is because they've embraced who they are. Um, Sometimes it can be difficult to find oneself, but when you do, then it's always good to be yourself. Number 7 is always think positive thoughts. Now, this kind of goes back to always holding on to hope, and it's always good. And it's just basically been proven that positive thinking actually does improve a person's mood, can help reduce depression. It can, it has all these really powerful benefits that have been clinically proven. Um, been known to extend a person's life, increase, um, improve a person's attitude. Just always being positive, and not the sarcastic positive. I'm positive it's going to be a lousy day. No, we're talking, the full-on having positive thoughts, and it goes it goes beyond just being happy. It's basically a mindset. And as who says it? That's our list. Oh wait, that would be whatculture.com. And that's our list. But anyways, no. This is not our this is my list anyways. It's the same list as always, but I always try to add new stuff to it. So yeah. Anyways, this has been Vlog Friday, and I hope that at least it was helpful to somebody. I make videos because I enjoy making them. There's no other reason for it. And yeah, always be yourself, and make sure you talk to people if you are feeling down, because talking it out can really, really help. Anyways, with all that being said, if you like this content, then make sure you like and subscribe and ring that bell so you know when I upload. Also, if you want to support me in any way, or if you want to join the Discord server, then all that information will be in the description below. And as always, thanks for watching, everyone, and have a great day.